Okay. This is the second application. The meeting of the Election Campaign Finance Committee for the Corporation of City of Mississauga is now called to order. Welcome. I am the People Career Chair of the committee. Today is 6th of March 2012. The purpose of this meeting is to consider an application for the compliance audit. We have one application on the agenda for the consideration. The Election Campaign Finance Committee exists under statutory authority of the Municipal Election Act. The committee members were appointed by resolution number 0239, 2010 on September 15, 2010. Are there any conflicts to be declared by the members of the committee? None? 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 None. We have our quorum also, we met the quorum, and we'll proceed with the examination of the application. The expected result of this meeting is the application will be considered by the committee. Each committee member will have an opportunity to comment and or ask questions of either the applicant or the respondent. The applicant and the respondent will be invited to make comments. During the course of discussion, the committee may seek legal advice if necessary. Should this occur, the committee may convene in camera. When the committee is ready, a motion will be made to grant or reject the application for the compliance audit. The committee will present an oral decision, and a formal notice will be forwarded to respective applicants and responded by email. If the application is granted, the compliance audit will be ordered. If the application is rejected, the committee will take no further action. The decision of the committee can be appealed to the Interior Court of Justice within 15 days. The name of the applicant in this matter is Mr. Vezina. Is the applicant present?
Yes, I am.
Can you please state your name?
Gregory Hugh Vezina.
Is the applicant present by legal counsel, and is legal counsel present? No. The name of the respondent in this matter is Mark Cashin. Is the respondent present?
Yes.
Is the respondent present by legal counsel, and is the legal counsel present?
No.
Madam Clerk, can you please confirm for the record that the application was filed within the application time limit?
Yes.
Can you please also confirm that the applicant name was an eligible elector in the most recent municipal election?
Yes, it was.
Can you please confirm that the respondent name was an eligible candidate in the most recent municipal election?
Yes, it was.
The application meets the criteria and may be put forth before the committee for consideration. Mr. Vezina, you can proceed with the...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, I'd like to start by drawing the committee's members' attention to the 2011 financial statement of Mr. Cashin. Referring to you to page 2, box C, where the office expenses are declared as $733.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, do you have a copy of that thing?
That's your return.
I know, I was in the hospital today with my son, so...
I didn't make copies. Because I asked the committee about this, Mark, in an email, I asked them about extra copies for everybody,
That's fine.
and they said, no.
You don't want your copy?
I don't, I apologize.
We have hold on, with the agenda, there was a copy was made, right? So we have extra copy with Mr. Cashin.
Sorry, I
No
apologize.
No problem. Okay, so I've drawn attention to the committee on page 2 of box C, the office expenses declared at $733. And on page 5, table 3, he declares a contribution in goods and services of rent of $671. Now, I didn't make copies of all the exhibits that I submitted in the previous matter because I actually thought I could use them again. Do I have to submit them all again, or can, for the record, I use submissions in this previous matter? The exhibits.
That was a separate application, but
Okay.
do you have copies?
I've given all my copies to you.
So you want to reuse them, as we said?
Yes, because they're the same evidence on the same matters. I'll go through the list and read them into the record if you'd like.
Okay, good. That's fine.
I think we're okay with that.
We're okay, we'll pull them out, just give us time because.
Yes, fine, yes, absolutely. The first one was the business card of Mavis and Bristol Dental. And the other.
Sorry to interrupt again. Would it be possible to get a copy?
Yeah, we're doing it. So the first item was the business card of the Bristol Mavis Dental Clinic, which is in Unit 10 at 720 Bristol Road, which is in the same mall that Carolyn Parish's Canopy headquarters. And the evidence I gave was that I met with the owner of that business, Dr. David Meisels, and spoke to him personally about the rent that he paid, and he confirmed or told me that he pays over $40 a square foot gross for his space. And attached to that is a 411.ca printout of his business so that it confirms he exists. The second item was the Canada 411 web page for AMDA computers at 720 Bristol Road, is in Unit 11. I spoke to Mashu Quarashi, and he said that he paid over $40 a square foot, and that basically all the tenants in those 1,100 square foot units were paying at least $40 for the 1,100 square feet. The third item I provided was the email from John Kirchhoff, who was the owner of
Sorry, where's that?
John Kirchhoff.
Okay, sorry.
Who was the owner of the building and the business at 508 5 McLaughlin Road until May of this year when they sold the business. And they had a verbal agreement with the landlord to pay them $12 a square foot, but as soon as the thing closed, the new owner raised the rent to $35 a square foot plus taxes. And I have a witness that I brought for this who was an employee in that location for over 10 years and has knowledge of these facts. If I could bring my witness. I'd like to call Kathy Vezina. She's my spouse. And could you confirm for me that you were an employee of the Healing Center?
Sorry.
Yes, can you state your name, please?
Kathleen Vezina.
Can I make an objection? There obviously seems to be a family connection here, and there seems to be a conflict of interest to have somebody's spouse actually testify in this form.
Would you have an alternative witness except your family member? Why would you?
Mr. Kirchhoff couldn't be here. She worked there for the last 10 years.
Conflict of
The
interest.
fact that she's married to me does not, what does it, make her a liar or something? You're alleging she doesn't work there, or this isn't legal, or?
I don't think I used
Point has raised.
It's called perception.
Potential for conflict of interest.
Yeah.
Well, I don't believe there is. If you'd like to make your ruling, Mr. Chair, please do.
Croppy's having a laugh at this.
Can we convene the camera and discuss with our solicitor at this point?
Absolutely.
That's actually
Can
good.
we make a motion, please? So moved. Seconded? Whereas the Municipal Act 2001, as amended, the Act requires a resolution to be passed prior to closing part of the meeting to public. And whereas the Act requires that the resolution state that the act of the holding of the closed meeting and the general nature of the matter to be considered at closed meeting. Now therefore be resolved that the portion of the Election Campaign Finance Committee meeting held on March 6, 2012 shall be closed to the public to deal with the following matters. Pursuant to Municipal Act, paragraphs 239(2)(f), advise that is a subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communication necessary for that purpose. We'll reconvene in a few minutes. Committee now reconvene. Will the member please bring forward a motion to reconvene the meeting? So, okay. Can we, before we hear the testimony, the oral presentation of the witness, we'd like to qualify the witness first. So can we have Madam Vezina come back on the podium? She have questions. And Mr. Vezina, I appreciate if you do not make any sidetrack comments, specifically last one, what do you think she's lying? Please address the chair and refrain from these kind of comments. I appreciate it. Thank you. Can you state your name, please?
Kathleen Vezina.
And what is your role with the landlord? What kind of role do you play?
I worked at the Healing Center at 5085 McLaughlin Road since 2002 until present. We occupied that property until May of 2011.
And in what capacity do you work for the Healing Center?
A specialized therapist.
Okay. And you're going to put the evidence, you're going to put the testimony today in support of the rent?
I will confirm what the rent was. Yes.
Do you have any lease document with you?
No, I will confirm John Kirschnoff's email.
Do you have any lease document with you?
I do not have a lease document with me, no.
Do you have any canceled checks, how the rent was paid and how much was paid?
No, that is not my place. I don't own the business.
So your role is a tenant in the same plaza of the doctor, right?
Not the same plaza, the building.
The building,
Yeah.
okay, and you want to testify that how much John Crush.
The reason we left 5085 McLaughlin Road is because the new owners of the building tripled our square footage. So we left. It went from $13 a square foot to like $35, $36.
Objection.
Let's not go into the detail of it, I just want to qualify that.
Everyone knew. Everyone in the business knew that's what was going on.
It's this one, however, the other question, qualify the lease.
So you, can you explain to me again, you are here to qualify the email that the owner of your business?
Yes.
How are you going to do that? Like, what is the...
Do you want me to swear on a Bible?
Do you have any documentary evidence of
No.
this
No.
committee?
There's the email. And he's an honorable man.
Question. Question to see if you can qualify the witness.
I have no question because the witnesses can say that their position in the company is physical therapist, am I right?
A specialized therapist.
Specialist therapist. Therefore, I have no question relevant to the rental fees.
Mr. Lucaria, may I address the committee? Sure. So if I understand this correctly, Mrs. Vezina is an employee of this gentleman, not a signing officer, not an owner, and really would have no intimate knowledge of any of the legal agreements ever signed. on behalf of the corporation. Do I understand that correctly? The second thing I would like to know is in Mrs. Crombie's acceptance speech at council, they thanked the Vezina family. Was that this family?
Check, it's out of order and
Hold on, let's not get into this. We are here, you had a question, I replied to you. I'm here to qualify the witness, we're going to allow the witness or not. So we're going to make a ruling here now.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak to that point now since
No,
everyone has?
let's not get into that. Let's not get into
Not that point,
Okay,
just
let's-
qualifying the
The
witness.
objection was put forth that there's a potential conflict, okay, of your spouse giving a testimony or representation in support of the allegation or the email in reference in the law. I'm going to allow that objection. And the questioning which we did, it convinced me and my colleagues that the evidence or the oral testimony you're going to talk about is all hearsay. You do not have any documentation to support. We do not have Mr. Sorry, what's his name on the email? Krishnov there to present, to give us a direct evidence, or to qualify the payment of the rent as a check or the lease payment. Therefore, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may continue, I'd like to call Mr. Amir Ali, the real estate agent, involved in the previous matter to give evidence of the fair market value of the rent.
Please state your name.
Amir Ali.
Profession.
I'm the broker of record, Mysore Realty.
Which realty?
Mysore Realty.
Can you spell that for us, please?
M-I-Z-O-N-E. I give
N-R-Z.
my business cards to
Sorry, do you have that business card?
He has it.
Well,
Just hang on.
do I
We're
get
going to
one?
qualify him also.
Okay.
Just give me a second. Okay. So you have a real estate, you have a real estate broker agency, sorry, you're going to corrections, I'll
Yes.
repeat myself. Vezina Realty, you're a real estate agent. How long have you been a real estate agent?
No, I'm not a real estate agent.
You're a real estate broker.
I'm a real estate broker and broker of record.
And how long have you been doing that?
Real estate for over 7 years.
Are you going to be repeating the same thing?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
But we have to use the benefit because the Cashin is not the president. Mr. Chairman? No questions. Andy? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Earlier, I'm speaking about the retail value of properties at issue, and earlier I compared the properties that Carolyn Parish rented in Unit 8 with the other two properties virtually next door, 2 units over. You confirmed at the time that $40 or more is a reasonable fair market value price for comparable space. And you submitted to the committee 2 previous estimates, which again we'll have to give to Mr. Cashin, which showed that the rent today, as opposed to the rent last May, or last September, may have gone up 1 or 2%, but that it's about $45 or $46 a square foot in those 2 examples.
Sorry, excuse me. Can I get any of these documents?
I thought they gave you the copies.
The business card, I don't have his credentials.
We already spoke that he's a real record, real estate broker. We identified he's been doing this for 7 years.
I get all that?
But I will give you an opportunity if you want to cross-examine the witness once you finish.
There's no listings here.
I think what Mr. Cash is looking for is the 2 pieces of evidence I gave that he submitted that were the quotes for comparable rents.
The listing of the real estate, right?
Right.
I think those were taken back.
There was only one.
There were not enough photocopies, right?
Sorry about that.
So can you give the copies? We already have that in the previous.
Right,
So you can examine those copies. Those are the listings of the current market value on Vernon Cove.
Can I get?
Yes.
Perfect.
No,
What do
all.
you need them back for? If
You
you're really old copy.
you can have everything back. I trust you will give me a copy.
The committee is already aware of it, so we know the topic for your benefit. This is new
Thank
to you, so go ahead, take your time to think about it, and in the meantime, Mr. Amir will continue with this presentation.
So you give evidence here that the fair market value for real estate similar to that in the location of Carolyn Parish was about over $40 a square foot.
Yes, sir.
Now, are you familiar with the campaign headquarters where Mark Cashin was located at the Healing Center at 5085 McLaughlin?
Not really.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't know if you wanted to go it. Unfortunately, as a point of order, although you didn't accept any evidence from Mrs. Vezina with
Objection.
can I speak? If you interrupt me one more time, I'm walking out of here and going to the Court of Appeal.
Mr.
One more time.
Mr. Vezina, I caution you, please. If this continue again, we're going to adjourn.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chung interrupted me 15 times with Mr. Parrish and not at all. Now this gentleman is interrupting me over and over and over, and with all due respect, I deserve common courtesy here.
We'll give you all the courtesy we can.
Well,
That's why I
would be so,
appreciate
that would be
no
appreciated.
crisscross talking. Whatever you want to address to the chair. You are objecting to his comment.
I'm objecting to him putting in the evidence from Mrs. Vezina when it was already said he couldn't do that. That's what I'm objecting.
I'm not putting any evidence, I'm asking the question of the chair. The question of the chair. Mr. Chair, am I allowed to ask a question of the chair?
Yes, no.
Okay. My question is on a point of order. The committee ruled that she couldn't give evidence on the value of the rent. But she worked in the building for 10 years and she has evidence on how big and how many square feet the space is. Is she entitled to give that evidence? My
We
question.
already heard the witness. We tried to call, we didn't hear the witness. We want to qualify the witness. See if she's going to give something solid first person information to us. What she was talking to us was a hearsay. And that's on that basis we set the ruling that it was a hearsay. We don't want to accept that as a
So the fact that she worked in that space for 10 years and knows the size of it is hearsay according to the chair. Thank you very
We
much.
already made the decision on that witness.
Thank you. I asked for
Let's
clarification.
qualify the
Thank you.
witness.
Thank you. I asked for clarification. You've given it. She can't give evidence to the place she worked for 10 years on how big it is. Thank you.
Can I just ask, can you, like, lower your tone? It's very,
I'm
it's
sorry.
not, it's disruptive. It's
I'm
very out of
sorry.
order.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
You gave evidence that the fair market value in that area for that type of space was about $40. Okay. Now, although you're not familiar with the exact space that Mark Cashin rented, let me ask you: is a commercial space in a house that's now a commercial business, okay, would that space be substantially cheaper than other?
It's in a house.
It's a house that's zoned commercially, that's a business.
Yeah, it will be definitely cheaper.
Yeah. Would it be half the price?
Well, then I don't know, because I don't have the comparison.
Okay, thank you. That's all the evidence
Mr.
that I
Chairman, can you
want.
speak a little bit louder so we can hear you clearly?
Okay, what I said, I don't have the comparison with the house business, live-in work type, or, you know, the retail. I just compare the retail business, not the live and work and entertain. That's two different things.
Oh no, this isn't, they live in the house. This is a house that has been turned into a business. It's a chiropractic office, a doctor's office.
But definitely.
Let's address the issue of the premises. What
That's
is
what I'm
it,
asking.
small, big, square footage, what? The witness is here to give his expert opinion on the square footage of that equivalent of same premises.
I'm just trying to get a price from them for a comparable.
Let's put it right question.
And that's what I did. For a commercial business that's in what used to be a house, but is now a zone commercial. It's commercial, there's no residences around it, it's a business. Okay. Would the rent for that be substantially, like by half or more cheaper than any other commercial space?
Still, I wouldn't know.
Okay, that's fair enough.
You don't know.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and I'm finished with the
You
witness.
finish? Is any of my fellow members have a cool heart?
No, wait a minute, Gary, come back.
Please stand on the witness. Member of the question, any question, committee member?
No.
No? 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 Richard?
No.
Do you have any
Yeah.
question?
Oh, I do.
Go ahead.
Do you go by Mr. Amir or Mr. Ali?
Mr. Ali.
Mr. Ali. So you're a broker of record. Do you have your certifications for appraisals?
Certification of?
To do appraisals on
Yes.
property? So you have that.
That's right.
So maybe you can give the 10 points that you compare when you're comparing properties to give it property value.
I object.
I hear the question. Let him respond.
You're saying if you want
If you-
property appraisal, can I do it or not? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is, I'm a mortgage broker,
Okay.
commercial and residential.
Right.
So when I sell a property, I have to hire a licensed
Can you please direct the question?
appraiser.
Yeah.
So during doing an appraisal, how would you do an appraisal for a commercial property?
See, appraisal is completely different. Competitive analysis is completely different.
Right.
Appraiser is appointed by the bank, whoever is the lender. They send appraiser to appraise the property. Our job is, for instance, if you want to sell your property, I will go there and going into the land history and past history of that area, I will evaluate the property. And I'll give you like 7 or 8 comparisons to say, okay, your property value is so. That's my job actually.
Right. So what you're saying, if I understand you correctly, is all you're doing is an MLS pull, essentially.
MLS plus I will go to registry and I will calculate that, for instance, you and me bought a property in the same area at the same time.
Okay. So
If
that
my property
Can I just
is
interrupt?
situated-
Can you,
My property
for the
is
committee
situated-
purpose, can you explain what registry you are specifically looking for? What registry?
Evaluation.
And then continue.
For instance,
What registry?
sorry,
Which registry you will look into?
land registry.
And registry.
Yeah, for instance, for instance, 5 of you bought a property at the same place at the same time in the same area. If your property is increasing by 10%, her property is also increasing by 10%. A little bit variance, I can say, okay, she did the kitchen renovation, she put granite or that variation we calculate, we have 30 points to evaluate the property considering all the variations.
So essentially what you're saying to me is you can go on and get the history of properties around the area,
Yeah.
you pull them, and that's how you come up with a comparative.
Right.
That's one method of valuation of a business.
That's
Is
right.
that correct?
Yeah.
So my question to you then is, this property here is on Lakeshore Road down
Right.
the south of the city.
Yeah.
This property here is on Vernon Court,
Right.
yet you couldn't pull any properties up in that area where we're talking about. Is that correct?
This is the property, these are 2 current locations available today.
No, I understand that, but my question to you before was, to develop a comparative, you can go and get history of properties that have been there before, correct?
Right.
Okay. So theoretically, you could have pulled the listing from the location I was in. How come you didn't?
Well, actually, today when I was coming here, I thought somebody wanted current availability of the properties. See, if you consider retail space, all Ballantrae, all the Lakeshore,
That's not what I considered.
any strip plaza, let me finish. All these strip malls, except the Yorkdale Mall, right?
Yes.
Or Bradley City Center, or Square One, the retail space is almost the same rent, almost in all the spaces in Mississauga.
So then why didn't you pull the
That's why
MLS
I
history?
did not understand, because somebody wanted an independent opinion about the availability today. I told you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a suggestion that we just release this witness because he had the ability to get the proper facts and figures, yet it didn't. So we're looking at information that's not relevant to the area.
The witness is here to show the committee the comparable of the current and the previous market value of the property.
Okay, no problem.
At the end, the committee goes up to the committee how much to give the weight to the submission, and the oral submission presented by the witness, how much.
Perfect.
It's up to the committee.
Okay. So now
Are you done with the
No,
question?
no. So now my next question is going to be, what did I use on the McLaughlin Road property?
What did you?
Yeah.
McLaughlin, what?
Well, Mr. Vezina is making a statement here about the property I had on McLaughlin Road.
No, McLaughlin and what intersection?
I believe it's south of Bristol.
Okay.
So what did I use in that location?
Is it strip mall?
I'm not here to answer the questions, I'm here to ask them. So,
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
How can I compare?
Let him finish the question. Let him finish the question. I'll give you the chance.
I'm not comparing. I'm telling you, I'm independent. Nobody's paying me for anything. Okay?
and I'm saying you are being paid. But
Okay.
what I'm asking is, what was my use on that property?
He hasn't been asked to give that evidence.
I asked you, what is the intersection? You answered me, Bristol
That's right, he's
and
supposed to give
McLeod,
the
right?
evidence.
My next question is it a strip plaza? Because there are two locations in that area.
No, it's not a strip plaza.
Okay, let's get to the relevance of it, okay? What I hear here is the witnesses didn't know what he was coming for.
No, he didn't know, he doesn't know about that property.
He pulled information on the current, okay? The property in question is going back in September last year. August to September of the campaign period when you went. Are you aware what Mr. Cashin premises, what address he was at? Would you able to give, even if you find out now, would you able to give your expert opinion how much would the current fair market value of the rent is? On what basis? Do you have any tools here?
A computer is my tool, I don't have the computer.
But would you able to tell us now?
Yeah,
as
if
you
you
standing
give me
on-
access, I can show it to you. If you give me access to the computer, I can show it to you.
You're here, I'm going to repeat again, you're here to testify
Okay.
the comparable rent of
Right.
the premises which was occupied, rented by Mr. Cashin, the respondent, back in August, September, when he was running his campaign as a candidate.
Right.
He claimed an X amount on his financial statement as his rent.
Okay.
The question raised, the allegation by Mr. Vezina is that he paid less than the fair market value of the rent. Do you have any oral evidence to present to us that he paid lower or it should be comparable higher?
Not
Very
on that-
straightforward on the question.
Not on that credit.
Thank you very much.
Now, may I speak, Mr. Chairman?
Let me finish with the witness. He doesn't have any.
I
Sorry.
didn't bring him to give evidence about Mr. Cashin's property. I brought him to give evidence of a comparable commercial rent. That's what I did.
Heard it?
I was interrupted and not given him the chance to ask him for 600 square feet in that area, can you get it for $3 a square foot, which is the equivalent of what he paid. You wouldn't let him answer and you dismissed him.
But he has no evidence support here. Going back 6 months. Sorry, I already discussed the witness.
I wish I had a lawyer, boy. Okay, can I go on, please, Mr. Chairman?
Please go ahead, carry on
Thank you very
with the
much.
allegation.
Thank you very much. It is clear that the fair market value for that space, based on the evidence from Mr. Cherkoff, is $33 a square foot. That's what they raised the rent to, and that's what they charge. Regardless of whether there's any evidence as to what Mr. Cherkoff paid. What is in evidence before this committee is the fair market value for commercial space is $30, $40. A simple calculation of the amount that he paid and declared, which was $671, divided by 600 square feet means we're talking $1. $12 a square foot gross, $1 a square foot net. It is ridiculous not to be able to understand that the amount that he declared is less than the fair market value. The fair market value for 600 square feet at $33 a square foot is $1,650 a month.
Objection.
Let him finish, please. $1,633?
$1,650 per month. Mr. Cashin had signs on that facility and was in that facility, to my knowledge, for the campaign period, which is 2 months. In addition, I would like to submit as evidence to this committee a copy of Mr. Cashin's webpage and his listing on Facebook. Again, Mr. Cashin, one and one short. I'd like to draw the committee's attention to the fact that this is his webpage.
Sorry about that.
Cashin4ward5.com. On the first page there is his email and 800 phone number. And if you look onto the second page, which is his Cashin4ward5 Facebook page, the location for his campaign there is listed at 3166045 Creditview Road, Mississauga. So the fact of the matter is that Mr. Cashin didn't have one campaign headquarters and one office that he worked out of. He had 2. And there's no declaration anywhere in his returns for a rent or office cost or a contribution of a good or a service for that address. Now, so, it appears that $671 divided by 2 months would be about $335.50. And at $33 a square foot, the fair market value.
On the financial statement, Mr. Cashin, the $671.
It is on, I pointed it out to the committee.
Okay, page 508.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's correct. Okay.
Yeah, that's what he says for rent. And as I said, there's no entry for the rental or office cost for a second office. So I'm going to assume that the second office was free and he didn't declare it. and that the fair market value cost of the third office for 600 square feet was $33 a square
So
foot.
where's the third office? The first office is on 308 Ontario.
Correct.
That's
308.
Second office you're alleging is from his Facebook, no. The
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes,
On 6045 Parent View.
that's correct.
And which is the third one?
No, that's the second.
Okay.
It doesn't have a
Mention the
third.
one.
Doesn't have a third. I didn't say a third. What I've said is that even if you say, even if you consider there was no rent on the other office, which I don't know how, I mean, you have to declare what you use and you can't pay the fair market value. Just looking at the one for 600 square feet at $33 a square foot, the fair market value is $1,650 per month. So for a term of 2 months, it's almost $3,500 or $3,400. Now,
Can I ask you a question here?
yeah,
What made you believe that 6045, unit number 316, was his campaign office?
because he used it in the campaign, he used it in his materials, he used it on his webpage, and it's his
No, but
business office.
What's the compelling reason you to believe that this is his office? That's what my question is.
Because he says his campaign location is that address on his webpage.
You'll have a chance to respond to that, but on page number 2, on the Facebook. Page. Go ahead, carry on.
So he's declared a rent again of a tenth of fair market value. And as was pointed out earlier by Vice Chair Chung, the argument that an amount paid for rent that he made earlier in the precedent only applies where that amount is actually paid and a check is written. The court ruled in that case where it is a donation, the obligation and the onus is reversed, and it's the obligation of the candidate to prove the fair market value. And so the precedent you cited in the last case was absolutely wrong, and it's the opposite. And in this case, it's as well. It's the fair market value. And the exemption, if you've written a check that you spoke of, does not apply. So my submission is clearly that he has multiple offices, and that the amount that he's declared as a contribution and an expense is not the fair market value. I rest my case on that point.
Okay, for the benefit of everybody here in the room, I'm going to read the section of Municipal Election Act 1996. The subsection, paragraph subsection 66.3a. The value of the goods and services. The value of the goods and services provided as a contribution is A, if the contributor is in business of supplying these goods and services, the lowest amount the contributor charges the general public in the same market area for similar goods and services provided at or about the same time. The lowest charge. B, if the contributor is not in the business of supplying these goods and services, the lowest amount a business providing similar goods or services charges the general public for them in the same market area at or about the same time.
Correct. Absolutely my point. Thank you very
You done
much.
with the allegation number 1?
I'm done with allegation number 1. Thank you.
Question from committee member? Mr. Nurla?
Just a question. Have you had a chance to look at the statement, the first page? You were, just wanted to understand, did you read the address of Mr. Cashin?
On which?
First page, financial statement.
I don't know how to pull it out.
Mailing address.
I'm looking.
Page number.
Yeah. That is the same address that is on his webpage.
Which I think Mr. Cashin will have an opportunity to read by this point. Any further questions you have? No? I have no questions. No. Mr. Chung, anything? Okay, allegation 1. You give me the question to come to now or
No, let's
now?
finish.
Let's finish. Okay. Can you go on allegation number 2, please?
Thank you very much. Allegation 2 is about an airplane that was seen on at least one day and possibly more during the campaign. And I brought as a submission for the members of the committee the webpage of Event Direct, which is a business, a company that's in the business of flying aerial banners.
Which one? The first one? Okay, we're going to mark this exhibit 10, which was submitted. Mr. Mark Cashin, the earlier presented.
Thank you.
Exhibit 10.
Thank you.
And this will be the one which you just gave us, eventdirect.ca.
Yeah.
Performers and theme months and all that. Exhibit 11.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, I spoke to the national sales director of Higher Power Aerial Advertising about getting a banner, and was informed by him that the usual formats for banners are about 1,500 to 3,000 square feet with 5 to 7 foot letters, and that it costs between $2 and $3 per square foot for the production of the letters, and an additional $1,200 to $1,500 to rent the plane. So the fair market value of the banner is many thousands of dollars, regardless of how it was obtained. And I don't see it declared in his campaign return.
How much is the total value of the banner and the aircraft?
Well, it's about usually a 4-hour minimum, and it's it's $1,200 to $1,500 per hour on a 4-hour minimum. If you want to do it shorter, I guess they charge more. And the lettering was $2 to $3 a square foot. So if we take the low of $2 a square foot for 1,500 square foot, it's $3,000. So we're talking a cost, of many thousands of dollars, certainly $4,000 or $5,000.
But this is just a printout of the web page.
Yes, just confirm.
Do you have any email, anything you can show us?
I don't have a picture of the banner. I didn't see it happen.
No, the cost.
No.
You said
No.
they charge you so much square foot, so
Right.
much for the plane.
No, this is the evidence. I don't have any other evidence.
Quotation from them?
I have no other evidence other than the verbal information I'm giving you, because they don't put their prices up on their webpage.
Okay.
Okay? But clearly, it's more than something. And I'll rest my case on that one too.
Well, you can't argue that one.
Do you have anybody that you brought along that actually saw this plane in the banner that can speak to whether it even happened?
You will not let my wife testify, so no.
Is it possible, and I'm not trying not to speak out of turn because I know we'll get there, is it possible that the charges for this plane would be included in advertising of $3,700 on his statement? Because as they pointed out, these statements are very catch-all.
It is possible.
Okay. And you also mentioned that you have information that it was donated. Do you have anyone to speak to confirm that?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that, if that's what you took me as saying. I don't know whether it was donated or not. I just know that it occurred.
Okay, well, your letter says, I also have information that the airplane was donated.
Okay.
So that's where I
I'm
got
sorry,
it from.
that was an assumption.
Okay.
Are you retracting that statement then about donation?
I'm not sure it was donated, but if it happened and it wasn't in the return, then it is an illegal donation by definition. So I'm not retracting it at all. Thank you.
No, but you said in the letter, I'm just repeating, that I also have information that the airplane was donated. You just mentioned you assumed. So.
My assumption was, if it wasn't in the returns, then it was an illegal donation. That is a reasonable assumption.
Any questions, Mr. Nolan? Any other supplementary question? No further question on that.
Number three. Number three is self-explanatory. Mr. Cashin said at the end of his return that he had 0 campaign signs left. Not a single one. Didn't even keep one. I don't think I've ever met anybody that run for office that didn't have at least one campaign sign left. So every campaign sign that he took down on election day, every campaign sign was destroyed. I gather is what his evidence is. And I just don't believe it. Simply don't
So
believe
what
it.
does it violate the Municipal Election Act if he had a 0 sign?
Because if he had one sign, then he didn't make a proper
How do
declaration.
you know he had 1, 2, 10, or 0?
That's the reason you have,
Because he-
that's the reason you have a compliance audit. He said he had 0. I don't agree with it.
Okay.
Number 4. Mr. Cashin says he has 0 phone and internet expenses. There were no phone and internet expenses put in the boxes on his return that require phone and internet expenses, type expenses. Okay? I've given the committee a copy of his webpage. His webpage shows that he has a web domain, Cashin4award5.com. Web domains cost money to register. Websites cost money to put up. He says that he has an 888 phone number. An 888 phone number costs money to operate. And quite frankly, it's not believable that he had 0 campaign expenses for phone, internet, phone canvassing, whatever. It's absurd.
Okay, you'll have an opportunity to respond.
Thank you. That's number 4. And I draw attention to the financial statements on page 2, box C. He declared $733 as his office expenses. On table 5, on page 5, table 3, if you look, he declares a contribution of $671 for rent. So if you subtract $671 from $733, you have a total of $62. And what he's saying is that $60 is the total of all of his office costs. Phone, internet, email, 800. You can't build a web page for $62 and can't host it, pay for a web domain, etc. It's just impossible, not believable. Thank you very much.
Question? No question?
Thank you. Okay, number 6. I made some allegations with respect to the Rotary list and his conduct with the Rotary.
Number 5.
Oh, sorry, number 5. I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Excuse me, I'd like to make a point of order here on two things. Number 1, anything he's talking about in a complaint should deal with finance statements, number 1. Number 2, Mr. Vezina has already said once where he's accused me of something because he had information that he just made that up. And I understand now that Mr. Vezina, and I don't want to be too hard on this point, but he goes through this point here making a lot of accusations. And I think the point where he has, I've been told he'd be required to tell his source. Otherwise, we need to make an adjustment.
I hear you, and he's presenting his allegations up to this foundation. So let him go step by step. You will get the question to answer each one on one issue.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I allege here is that he's received an illegal benefit. which is an expense. And that is the mailing lists and the contacts and the emails that he sent out to people. Where he obtained that list, if he obtained that list from Rotary. Now, if he did use that list for partisan political purposes, that is not allowed. Now, Mr. Cashin can deny that he resigned as a member of one Rotary Club and then became a member of another. That's up to him. And he can deny that he didn't have any of the lists. I don't have a witness here, and even if I said the name of the witness, I don't have the witness here, so no, I can't, prove it, other than it's what I heard, and that I have first-hand knowledge that he used that mailing list, because I was communicated that fact from a couple of members.
Mr. Vezina, in front of us, all this, okay, so-and-so told you that he got. I'm going to ask you a question. What evidence do you have that he got the email list from the Rotary Club? Or
Mr. Chairman, I don't have the evidence, but I do believe the evidence is available, and in a compliance audit, the evidence would come to light.
You have to present your case.
I'm doing my best, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
So are you done with number 5?
I'm done with number 5, and I'm going to deal with number 6. On page 5 of Mr. Cashin's 211 financial statements, on table 3 under contributions, he stated he received the contribution for $439 for bouncy castles, plural. That would lead one to suggest that it was for more than one castle. It is not clear whether he used the company for the setup and teardown and delivery. However, I would like to submit to the Commission Mississauga Bylaw 1-06 business licensing for the City of Mississauga, and I'll have to give one back to Mr. Cashin, and attached to it is Schedule 9 of that bylaw.
That's a joke.
This will be Exhibit 12. Right? Exhibit 12.
City bylaw.
Sorry, sorry? 13. 13, I'm sorry.
I got one more copy.
No, we already got
You have enough?
Mr. Cashin has it.
Thank you.
No.
And what this bylaw is, you nutshell, take it to walk us through?
Under Schedule 9, the bylaw requires, a license is required to use these, a carnival, an amusement ride, a bouncy castle. And that in order to do it, there must be written approval of the establishment of the carnival for the owner of the lands. So the owner of the lands where this had to get written approval. There had to be a detailed map. There had to be a certificate of insurance indemnifying the corporation of the City of Mississauga for a minimum of $5 million. And the carnival ride had to include a valid, a current license to carry on business in Ontario issued by the TSSA, and a valid current amusement device permit issued by the Technic TSSA or its successor. Now, no person under this bylaw is allowed to operate it or operate a ride for use by the public in an improper or dangerous manner. And nor under Section 3, Subsection 2. Subsection 2 does not apply to a carnival operating in conjunction with a festival approved by the city. So he's not exempt.
I heard the bylaw.
He's not exempt from the bylaw. Now the bylaw licensing fee alone is about $235.
Does it say here?
It doesn't say because it wasn't in the list. It's $235. That's what it is.
So that's not a scope or committee that he paid the fee or he got the permit from the city or not. That's not the issue in front of us.
That's not the issue.
The issue is
the issue is the value.
The bouncy the bouncing castle
Right.
for $439
Correct.
contribution goods and services.
Correct, correct. And what the point I'm trying to make to the committee is that under the law, only a registered, accredited carnival operator with a TSA certificate can supervise the setup and tear down of that ride. And while it's being operated, there must be an adult that's gone through a training program to supervise. Now, this company offers those services with a bouncy ride, but they're a lot more than $439. So one of two things happened. He either did the event without a license.
Assumption, or you have a solid documentary evidence presented?
It has to be one or the other. There's no license issued. I went to the clerk's office with a carnival operator yesterday afternoon with Mr. Bill Gordon, who was here at the bylaw office, who owns Billy G Amusements, and he confirmed that these bylaws are necessary, that these permits for each ride the permits are necessary, and you must have them.
Is he here to testify?
He's not here to testify. He has an injury. But the bottom line is, the valuation we're talking about is the value of the permit. Somebody had to have a permit. If they didn't have a permit, the value of the permit still had to be included as a cost because it's the value of the goods and services contributed. So what was contributed was not $439. It was $439 plus. Because the price for the bounce, without any of the price of $439 is for the bounce without the staff, without delivery, without setup, and without teardown.
And you have first-hand knowledge of that?
I have first-hand knowledge because the price is on the website.
No, without the attendant, without all this, without the permit, without all the allegations just counted to me.
Unless he had
No, that's
a
not
permit, unless he had a permit, he had to hire the company to do it. It's an offense not to do it. So it's one way or the other. Either he
Richard has a question.
Either he had the permit, the company did it legally and he had the permit, in which case the price is much, much higher. Or he did it illegally.
We heard you.
Okay, that's my point.
Go ahead.
Does bouncy castles fall under this bylaw, sir?
Yes. Any amusement device does it.
So the operator, I'm assuming that the operator invoiced you for this, didn't include the services of tear down and setup for the bouncy castle.
Not at $439, he couldn't have.
Because it says ride here. I don't
Right.
think bouncy castles.
Yes, it's right. It's an amusement device. It's a TSA certified, and their website says TSSA certified.
But
Right.
does do bouncy castles fall under this bylaw?
Yes.
You have proof of that?
Yeah, it's an amusement device. It's clear from,
No, but do you have proof of that?
yeah, the bylaw itself.
But
That's
his
not proof.
question is this bylaw applicable to the bouncy rights?
Yeah, it says it is right there. To all amusement devices with a TSSA certificate and a TSA.
Going outside our mind, okay? The infraction of the bylaw, what did the bylaw fit? Did he get a permit? Did he get the man? Did he get the medical supervisor? What information do you have that, I want something solid, concrete in writing, or a testimony from a witness that is more than $439. Committee doesn't care if you got the permit or no permit.
So you don't care if it complies with the law?
No, that's
If he
separate.
doesn't put $250 in his expense? I'm done,
People
Mr. Chairman. I'm done. Thank you very much.
No, hear me.
No.
He could have violated, that's a fraction, we're not here to violate the bylaw infraction. We are here to hear any contradiction against the municipal act.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman, it's about the fair market value and declaring the expense.
We heard,
That's what it's
we
about.
heard that,
Thank
and you all gave us a lot of, to support your claim and allegations. Okay, we heard it. Okay, number 6, that was the event break, and that's it. Okay, we'll give you the question. Now, it's almost 5 minutes to 10. How long would you need to rebut your response to the 6 allegations?
3 to 4 hours. No, I am only kidding. But almost everything he addressed, I have here as invoices or whatever, so it's all, I'll go through it very, very quickly.
Can I just, maybe we need a couple of minutes break for washing, water, anything, stretch, let us know. Everybody okay?
You want to have a quick break?
How about you?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Mr.
All right, number one, thank you very much, and I do want to thank Mr. Vezina for taking an opportunity to use this format. I think this is a perfect opportunity for politicians, candidates to be completely transparent. So that's always been my point of view, and to run fair elections in Mississauga. While I'm going to go through this, you know, we are focusing on the campaign finances. I will just clear up a couple of small housekeeping items. One, the address on 6045 Credit View is a mailing address, and if you actually drive to that address, it's a UPS office. So I did not use a UPS office as a campaign headquarters. Number two, in section 2, he's made assumptions again, and but we'll address most of this. And the third thing on the carnival, those are carnival rides like the mechanical.
Let's go
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, and
All
order.
right.
That's it, with the leg, and then we'll take the response.
So like I say, I do appreciate Mr. Vezina coming in and taking advantage of this. We know he's a long-time resident of Ward 5, 20 years, and that's well recognized. What I wanted to do is, part of the committee's job is finding out two things. Number one, if I'm over my limit on underreporting, that's one of the major infractions. And number two, if any of the things I did had an impact on the results of the election. That's really what we're looking at. And what this is showing here is I came in 9th, so it's pretty much anything I did was ineffective to the results of the election. And number two, my subject spending limit was $19,765, leaving a cushion, let's say, of $25,000. And we can address that a little further. So on the campaign office, and something I was trying to get through with Mr. Lee, was there's some factors that you need to take into consideration with real estate. It's one, comparatives, what did I use it for, and when I actually used it. There was a lot of assumptions, and I think he did this, so I'll go through what we did. What we did, we had parameters, and again, the only ones I saw Mr. Vezina use was myself and Mrs. Parrish. And I wasn't privy to any of Mrs. Parrish's conversations with her landlord, so I can't make any comments. But I can make comments about the ones that I dealt with. So the first thing we're going to do is, and I know Mr. Vezina is very good on the computer because he did those 911 searches and things like that to try and come up with comparatives. But if you just look at simple things like storage units in Mississauga, you can Google that and it comes up with a list. And what you realize quickly is that the average price is about $125 to $140 a month. That's the average. So what we did, we used a storage rate of $125 a month, which is a market rate. All right, and we come back to what's the lowest price you can get the facility for if the person is not in the same business. So if you're going to a storage unit, you're getting security, monitoring, climate control, etc. None of this was supplied at the McLaughlin Road location. And one of the reasons was because it essentially was this little unit at the end. So what I used it for was in this area right here, I held the spring frames, so it's outside storage. And I used that back, and you can see those little 2x2s or whatever, there's still some there that I left with Dr. Nguyen. The issue with this whole unit here is it was bought by two doctors, a Dr. Nguyen and a Dr. Tutu. And Mr. Tutu is a dentist, or Dr. Tutu is a dentist, and he's been trying to get approvals to build in here. This is completely gutted and essentially is back to a garage now. So it's not being used as a retail space like Mr. Vezina was trying to indicate. Mr. Peter Cool was pretty much the only person I had out with me every day canvassing. He's the president of the Rotary Club of Mississauga West right now, and some of you may know him. He's quite active in the arts community in Mississauga. So he's even saying he volunteered with me, and In item 1, it refers to a campaign office with Dr. Nguyen. But what it does say is that there was no phones, no office desks, but there was a couple of plastic chairs. A small space provided by Dr. Nguyen was used for storage area for signs and literature, and that was it. We literally just put it inside the door to keep it out of the rain. All the stakes and spring frames were all kept outside. So the actual use was, I did a market adjustments plus minus for deficiencies. So instead of using the $140 a month, I actually used $100 a week because I wanted to make sure that I overinflated the price so it would be beyond compare. So we have a third-party confirmation that that's what it was used for, and we also have provided information that you can just easily go on Google, search, phone up a storage company, get a rate. All right? So what I want to do is say, did we need a transparency test? I mean, I've shown you the bills and things that I gave you to Dr. Nguyen. I showed you where we used the area to store. On number 2, any questions on number 1?
So you're basically saying you ran your campaign out of your home?
I ran it off my cell phone.
Okay.
I mean, clearly the campaign was myself, my 12-year-old son, and Mr. Cool, and then we did get some high school students from Xavier, Glen Forest, a few of those people, because I do work with the IB programs, so I did get some of those kids, absolutely, because they needed their 40 hours, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the number one thing with the office space is an assumption that we were using a big campaign office with phones and internet and people working there. That wasn't it. It was literally a storage closet. And he did give us use of a shared washer. So, any questions on one? Number 2, sorry.
You made a statement a minute ago that you run your campaign on your cell phone.
Yes.
Where in your financial statements?
Why don't you just, I'm going to get to that. Because there's going to be a phone and internet issue.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
You're going to come to that. I have one question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And I can show you invoices, so.
Any question on what I don't know, validation or no further question, you can go ahead and choose.
So number 2 is the plane issue. So Mr. Vezina has information that the plane was donated, and I think we dealt with that. That was kind of more of an assumption and a jumping to a conclusion than a fact. And if that was his information, I'd like to know how he got to that. Again, he mentioned he went and did a Google search, he found some company info and pricings on the web, and here's a pricing right there that you can look at. A message by air will surely give you the highest impact with 35 characters available on a banner. You can say almost anything, and with prices starting at $399 for 30 minutes, and the flight time an additional $100 for every 30 minutes thereafter, it's very economical. So there's the phone number, and there's the email, and Zach Martin is the gentleman I dealt with, and more importantly, the actual invoice was $1,300. We did have it under the advertising section. It's noted on the returns, and they did not process the payment by the time of the audit. There's the actual invoice from Brampton Flight Center for the $1,300. I have an original copy here if there's any questions on it. So on the plane issue, what we do know is it's under advertising. There was no separate line item for plane advertising. Info is available in the public domain, very easily to search via Google. Invoice was supplied, and we represented it on the statements. Is there any questions on the plane issue? Again, hopefully I met a transfer.
So what we understand is you spent $1,300 on the plane advertisement?
Correct.
Which is part of advertisement?
That's correct.
Part of this $3,743?
Correct.
Thank you.
All right. So hopefully that meets the transparency test on the plane issue. Number 3 is the sign issue. Any reasonable person, if they did their homework, would realize it's also available in the on the actual sign, because he's referring that maybe I have this big banner in my garage, and that's not how it works. They have letters, they screw them on with a bolt, and literally all you do is put your name, like it's just letters. So there's no purchase necessary for that. On this other part of his complaint, he said under Schedule 3, I'm required to put it in. I didn't have any campaign before this, so I wasn't required to put any inventory inside. Schedule 3. All right? I used my own campaign funds to pay for signs. So it begs the question, where did Mr. Vezina not submit a complaint on the Crombie stuff here? Because I've paid for everything.
Let's address your...
Yeah. I did not have any donation from federal parties, political parties, or any other person that I did not claim on my statements. I would have the same advantage or disadvantage as any other candidate who actually paid for their signs. So any questions on sign issues? Hopefully that means the transparency.
Just
Yeah.
to clarify what I understood from the allegation, that at the end of the campaign, you had 0 sum, because I know I didn't mention.
You know what, after I read that, I'm thinking, you know what, I should have kept one for the memorabilia to put in my basement, but actually I don't have one thing. I have absolutely 0 stuff in my possession.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and when I dealt with the accountants, they asked me what the commercial value, can you go and sell it? And I said, someone else picked it up, and it's gone. I never even looked at it after the campaign.
Understood.
So, anything else on the signs? No? So hopefully I met a transparency test there. I gave you everything that I had, and we're happy with that. With regards to my webpage, the Cashin Forward 5, very easy to figure this out. You go onto Google again, and you do a Who's It search. It will tell you exactly where I bought it, and I bought it from GoDaddy. Now, if you actually go to the GoDaddy webpage, it'll show you some of the prices that we have here. All right, you can buy a domain for just $1.99. So again, this isn't a special price for me; it's for everyone. Now, what we can do is I can actually show you the invoice for Cashin at Ward 5. All right. So there it is right there, Cashin Ward 5. The price with discount, actual price is $2.17 for that webpage. Wow. For the domain, the URL. So if you work that out for the campaign period, you got $2.17 divided by 365 days, works out to 5/100ths of a penny, times 45 days of the campaign is 27 cents for the campaign. When you looked at hosting plans, again, you're looking at the same price ranges of about $4.99 to $5.94 for the hosting. However, I already have an account with them, which is here, and I just put it under that one, so there's no charge for hosting. You just put the pages in behind. However, he also asked about setting up the pages. That was all done by, and the maintenance was done by Mr. Dale Shearer at the Right Solution. So all of his, he printed postcards for me, he did mail delivery, and did my web page. It was all in that price. That is also in the financial statements. Any questions?
This account with GoDaddy, right?
Yep.
This $4,000 invoice that you just signed. The next page, the $4,000.
No, that's not GoDaddy. Sorry. Right here.
Domain. This invoice.
This invoice.
So
This is not.
this particular account has to do anything with the campaign, or?
No, it does. This gentleman here, Mr. Shearer at the Right Solution, printed my postcards, delivered them, and he's the guy that actually put the pictures and stuff and the content into the web page. So it was all included in the price. So, and there's this actual, he invoiced me by PayPal. All right.
Ready? That's
Yes.
sure. Go ahead.
Ms. Cashin, where in your financial statements is that those expenses reflected?
This 5,449 is under brochures and printing, because the majority of that was for 30,000 postcards that he.
8,059?
Sorry.
8,059.
Correct. Because I also did 20,000 door knockers.
Thank you.
Same question, but,
Yeah.
okay. I remember,
So there's his actual PayPal invoice to me, being paid by Visa. So that's the internet questions. Anything on the internet? No? Hopefully I met a transparency test for you there and provided what you needed to see. If You talked about phone canvassing. I did use phone canvassing. There's the actual invoice for it for $39.65. So yes, we used it. It was listed under advertising. The contacts were collected during the canvassing of the campaign. They did live in Ward 5. A resident list is provided by the City of Mississauga, no charge, or for the $100 that we get back. So there's no value required on the actual list.
Or that's, I can't read, that's $39?
That's $39, yeah. $39.55.
That's part of advertising. Advertising.
That's correct.
And the city provided you the listing of all the electoral in the ward. It comes with a phone number.
No, that's the actual canvassing. When you go out and you say, will you support me, et cetera, et cetera.
What list do you get from the city?
When you get every, I don't know if it's the right word, but official voter or person that has.
So what information do you get on that list?
We get the voters at the house, how many people are there. You get the address of the building, to the house, you get the postal code, et cetera.
Phone number?
No phone number. You gotta do that.
Email?
No email. You gotta do that hard work when you're up there. Yeah, so whenever you're doing your signs, putting up signs, that's when you get all those numbers. All right.
Any questions on this?
So hopefully that's transparent on what we did on the
Any
phones,
questions?
canvassing.
No? Go ahead.
Okay, on the phone, we've already established there's no campaign phones, so we didn't use anything except for my personal cell phone. We talked about an 800 number, and if you call that 800 number, it comes right to my cell phone. So, just so you know, this is something I've had since, I know it's hard to see, but that's 2009, right there. So it's something that I've always had as a personal item. What it is, it's just a cloud-based 800 number. It directs it anywhere you would like it to, whether it's your home, etc. Then you just go online and do it. The cost of that is $9.91 a month. I have that, so if you divide it by 3 uses, 1 campaign, 1 personal, and 1 business, for 30 days, 11 cents a day, you're totaling $4.99 for the campaign. All right? Now what it does is, all you're doing is paying for the 800 numbers that people actually call that, and it's $4.9 cents per minute. All right? And depending where in the world that people call me from, whether it's Barbados, China, there's a different rate. But for Canada, it's 4.9 cents. So I did pull from August 1st to September 19th is a total of $15.88 charges. So again, if we divide that by 3, we're still under the $10 threshold of minimal payments. Any questions on the phone issue? Mr. Chung?
Yes, sir. The 88 number, is it also used for your personal?
Correct. Yeah.
Anybody else? Any questions?
Hopefully I've met a transparency test on that issue as well, and provided you with the invoices and what the domain information is available in the public domain. If we can just give me a little bit of leeway here, I'd like to skip to the balance issues before we get to point 5, because point 5 is a little bit more personal, and this is a lot easier to address just with the invoices. So again, if you go to the internet, like Mr. Vezina has presented to us with that printout, I forget which one it was, but you just go to the Event Direct. They do not provide.
Is it 11?
Sure. Yeah. They do not provide any plain advertising, so I'm not sure where he got that information, and I doubt that they would actually say that they did that, because they don't, unless they subcontract it. So Event Direct, and then anything you want to look at is available to look at under the FAQs, which is right there, frequently asked questions. So he is correct, there is an additional government rider, and no, we did not use any Event Direct staff. We picked up and dropped off. I think Mr. Vezina's bylaw is confusing carnival rides, which are motorized, gas-operated engines, turning pulleys, not the bounces. This is their business model. They've been in business for 10 years doing the same thing. I don't believe they would be able to get away with breaking the law for 10 years without the bylaw enforcement coming in and talking to them. So again, if you do scroll into the frequently asked questions, do you provide staff? Yes, we can at an additional cost, so Mr. Vezina is 100% correct on that. However, here's the actual invoice in my campaign expenses. which shows the bouncy castles that we rented. I'm assuming these are the same prices that are on their webpage. I didn't check, but that would be easy to check. This is what we believe to be a fair market value. I did send, also from the frequently asked question, it says, does Event Direct have insurance? Event Direct Inc. is fully insured. Please don't hesitate to contact us. So I sent him an email at Event Direct, and his answer was no problem. It's not only insured, but government permitted and licensed. We have any of the mentioned approvals. We provide a TSSA with a $2 million insurance certificate. All right. So I was not required to provide any insurance for the use of this because that's their business model. It's held on private property, not public property. Any questions on the bounce issue? Again, hopefully this meets a transparency test. I think when we come in here, we should be providing you with these kind of materials. Now this is the big issue, which is point number 5. And again, before I put this together, I was unclear of, and I don't want to...
You're going to get sued, eh? Keep going.
Well, I don't want to be too aggressive on this area.
What did you say? Target.
Let him finish this.
Thank you.
So, again, I'm not sure of his source, but I did not use any list that was provided to canvass votes, except for that was provided by the city. All right? To the best of my knowledge, no members of my Rotary Club live in Ward 5. I did not use any list to canvass donations from anybody in Rotary or Rotaract. That was done by a gentleman named Mr. Dave Pallett. I never talked to one person once about giving money to my campaign. He did all of it. All right? However, I do agree that if there was a violation of a charitable organization, it should be reported. Absolutely, and I do not disagree with that. And Mr. Vezina is an impartial, good citizen of Ward 5 and should get right on it and report all these infractions. However, that's not what this committee deals with. We deal with the finances. So, again, I just want to point out the obvious. Neither organization, Rotary or Rotaract, has charitable status under the CRA. And that's very easy to figure out. You just go to the charitable organizations under CRA. No list was ever provided by either organization. If Mr. Vezina or his reliable source of information believe that any organization supplied any help, then they should act without haste. I agree, if there was a violation of the charitable organization, he should report it. And once again, I believe Mr. Vezina is a good citizen of Ward 5, and that should be done. An approval issue. I did not need approval to use my own personal contact list that I've collected over 25 years. These are all personal assets. If I want to send emails to people to work as volunteers, to friends and family and people I've met along the way, that's completely legal. And if not, then I would like to know what part of the Election Act that would be breached. Inappropriate behavior is what he states for what I did, for transfer of clubs. And yes, 3 members did approach me from the Mississauga Club. President Christoph Trucktow, member Bernd Dinnert, past district governor, and member Rick Fawcett from the Rig Fest Committee. They presented to me that it was a unanimous board decision that I stepped down as president. However, later, we find out that they had no quorum, no motion, and no vote. So they broke their own bylaws, and it was not a club decision. Because if you're familiar with the way Rotary works, you have to, very similar, you have to have a quorum, you have to make a motion, everybody has to vote on it at the board. It then gets presented to the floor, i.e. the members of the Rotary Club, and then they vote on it. So the member of a Rotary Club have the final say. So, however, they were worried about me asking questions of elected officials, i.e. the mayor, that would jeopardize the hope of getting a city festival grant. So, you can get into that. I mean, there's the questions I asked the mayor. They're nothing that any citizen shouldn't be able to go and ask the mayor. And again, when we come back to transparency and whether our elected officials are doing things correctly. All right? Like some of the things I asked was, did you visit any of the polling stations? And the mayor actually came back and said, yes, when we know that this is against the Election Act, no elected official should be at a polling station unless they're there to vote. All right? However, she told me different answers. One being that she was checking on staff. The election.
What relevance is
Relevant.
the response to the allegation?
Well, because he's making an allegation that I was asked to leave the Rotary Club in Mississauga.
That's fine. We heard you, what happened. Do you have a response on that allegation?
Yeah.
And it's a personal level. Bringing the mayor or other candidates or anything, I don't see your response.
Okay, we'll just keep going then. Yeah. So when it comes to the actual club, they could not articulate the issue. They offered, I offered to bring it to the floor for a vote. It was refused because the 3 members believed that they would vote in my favor. But basically what it was a no-win. I did not want to hurt the Rotary Club because if they are going to finally get believe it or not, they have the largest festival in Mississauga, except they don't get any grants. And all the money goes back to charity. So I didn't want to jeopardize the remote possibility of them not getting a grant. So in the best interest of the organization, I did move on. The transfer date was the same day, but planned weeks in advance. And what I mean by this is, was it coincidental? Yes, but more coordinated. In Rotary, we have something that's called perfect attendance. I've been a member of Rotary for 25 years. So I have what they call perfect attendance. So I did not want to jeopardize 25 years without a coordinated effort to move clubs. I also did this because I organized a UN trip for students where I bring 50 to 150 kids to the United Nations. Okay? So,
What relevance that has?
well, he's asking, he made an allegation that, yeah, he did. He made an allegation that it was inappropriate behavior. So I'm explaining what happened. I think I deserve the right to answer baseless allegations that don't even have a name behind it. So that's the reason I had the obligation, and once the UN trip was fulfilled in November 3rd, I then left and moved to the Meadowvale Club. Inappropriate donations. I think Mr. Vezina's source, once again, has the facts wrong. I am actually the one raising red flags in my club about who they're giving money to, not asking for money that's not appropriate, and numerous emails and discussions with club leaders to prove that. I agree if there's any violation of a charitable organization, it should be reported, and again, Mr. Vezina should get on that right away. On the charitable organization of point 5, is there any questions? Again,
On the point of the reporting to CRA of the charitable organization, this is not the mandate of our committee. You as a private citizen have all the options, get on the line, go on their website, and use it, if you believe. So we cannot address that issue.
that's it, sir.
Okay, we heard the applicant, we heard the respondent. Mr. Vezina, we have 5 minutes to
Very much.
submissions, and you will have the same 5 minutes to respond and final submissions.
Mr. Cashin admits that he did use the UPS post office clock, and that's an extent. He didn't show me where it was included. As I mentioned earlier, we're talking about $62 in expenses between his office cost and his total cost. And so, I'll go back. I'll start at number 1. Let's go back to the rent and the storage rate, and then he used. He called that space a storage space and said he used it. It was outside, but he admitted that the signs were brought inside. And the fact of the matter is that office that you showed you the picture of, that garage is 600 square feet. And that's the building that's the space that the previous tenants moved out of, and the space that I've been in, and I know the size of the space. And it's not storage space. He can call it storage space, but it's not. It's commercial space, retail space. And the obligation is to declare the fair market value for space of similar space. The fact that he chooses to call it a storage shed doesn't make it a storage shed. It is what it is. Okay? And so therefore I don't agree with the valuations that he's used. They're ludicrous for commercial space. You don't get commercial space for $1.25 a month anywhere on earth. Certainly not in Mississauga. Then he says that the walls were all knocked down and the place was all in disrepair or whatever. I've been there for 10 years picking up my wife every day or a couple of days, and that whole garage was totally renovated, insulated, drywalled, and everything else. It's beautiful space. So I don't know how in the time between they moved out of a commercial space that they operated in till he moved in and all was done and all the walls were knocked out and everything else. I find that very difficult, quite frankly, to believe. With respect to the banner, he says the banner, he declares the banner value at $1,300. Well, as I said earlier in my complaint, I had no idea what the banners were. It wasn't anywhere in his return. He says it was in his advertising. I have no reason to believe it wasn't, but I certainly have no idea where it was before I filed my request for not. And to suggest that it was improper is just ludicrous. What am I supposed to do? All right. With respect to 0 signs left, please. Now let's talk about his phone expenses. And he takes all these little expenses and he divides them down by 365, by 147, by 222, by 45 days, by this, by that. The fact of the matter is he used them for the whole campaign period, which is a couple of months. He can't split off a telephone expense and say that part of this was personal, part of this was business. The fair market value of the cost for those services goes on his campaign. The fact that he uses it personally is irrelevant. It's the fair market value of the goods and services. Clearly, the fair market value of all of the goods and services that he had, besides rent, for office space, for phone, for internet, for his web domain. You can't say it costs $1.25 for a web domain. It costs the price of the cost of the web domain. He says that the web hosting was free because he has a big account with them and he used his own web hosting space. No, the value of the web hosting space is a campaign expense. The fact that he used his own web hosting capability doesn't negate including the expense. With respect to the Kiwanis, what is it? Your complaint, sorry. The Rotary, sorry, I'm tired, I've been here for 6 hours. With respect to the Rotary, I made the allegations that I made. I think it's coincidental, but you know what, I can't prove it here. And I requested an audit to prove it, okay? That's what I made that allegation. And finally, with respect to the bouncy castles, he put the evidence before you that showed that they had a $2 million insurance policy if they did the setup and tear down and everything else. The bylaw says the insurance policy is $5 million. The bylaw enforcement people confirmed yesterday that a bouncy castle amusement ride has got a TSA certification on it, which that website said, and if it is an amusement ride with a TSA, they're bound by the rules. And the rules include a permit, and the permit's $235, and the permit is included in your expense. Whether you got one or not is an expense. It's a campaign expense. It's related to the campaign. In addition, you classified that event as a meeting. A bunch of kids jumping around on bouncy castles as a meeting. You should have declared it as a fundraising expense, and then you wouldn't even have to declare any of it. But you didn't declare it properly. That's my point. Play by the rules. Those are my submissions.
Thank you, Mr. Vezina. Mr. Cashin. question or response?
No, there's really not that. No. I think I've made my cases.
Thank you very much for those of you. Now the committee will move in camera for discussion. So the member of the committee, please take a motion to move in camera. Moved by seconded. Whereas the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, the Act required a resolution to be passed prior to closing part of the meeting to the public. And whereas the Act requires that the resolution state the act of the holding of the closed meeting and the general nature of the matter to be considered at the closed meeting. Now therefore, be it resolved that a portion of the Election Campaign Finance Committee meeting held on March 6, 2012 shall be closed to public to deal with the following matters. Pursuant to Municipal Act subsection 239(2) paragraph F, advice that is subject to secret-client privilege, including communication necessary for that purpose. We'll need about 10:30, about 20 minutes. 20 minutes. We meet again at 10 to 11. If you need more time, Laura will come out and let you know. So please hand down your home. Thank you. The meeting now will reconvene. Will a member please bring forward a motion to grant or reject the application? Will a member please second the motion? Second. All in favor? The Election Campaign Finance Committee has considered the application for the compliance audit submitted by Mr. Vezina. Following the examination of this application, the committee has decided to reject the application for the following reasons. That there is a lack of compelling evidence presented to raise a reasonable probability of breach of municipal protection. The decision of the committee may be appealed by either the applicant or the respondent to the period for which the court adjusted within 15 days of the date of the committee decision. On behalf of the members of the committee, Election Finance Committee, I wish to thank the respective applicants and the respondent for your participation. Each of you will receive a formal notice of the committee decision by them. Thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much.